He went full-on wet noodle as he threw himself backwards. That is when I felt the searing pain as my shoulder dislocated. Ouch! Today we're reading Parents' Most Chaotic Public Toddler Meltdowns. My son was about 3 years old when we were at the checkout of a local store. Apparently it wasn't moving fast enough for him, so he yells out loud, "Can't you go any faster?" I told him to quiet down, that the workers were doing the best that they could and it was very busy. He then screams, "We need more workers here." Now I am terribly shy and now about 50 people are staring at us. I ever so quietly told my son he had to be patient and just wait. He then threw himself on the floor and started screaming at the top of his lungs that life was horrible and he needed to get home. He was flinging his legs all around and bumping into carts and people, so I decided we needed to leave, and I bent down and picked him up and slung him under my arm, and that's when he went full-on wet noodle as he threw himself backwards. That is when I felt the searing pain as my shoulder dislocated. No! I did not take him with me shopping for about 5 years after that. Oh, that must hurt so much. I've dislocated my shoulders, not with my kids though, playing basketball, but it hurts like hell. I feel so bad for this parent. Someone replies, "I used to work at a grocery store that was chronically understaffed. There were so many times I wanted to scream, 'We need more people here.'" This toddler was smart. He should be a manager one day. I just wanted to make sure to add that this video isn't about making fun of our kids or bashing our kids. It's more of a support group situation. And I feel like reading these stories and sharing them, it makes me feel less alone, and I just hope that it makes you feel less alone too. Let's continue on. Took my almost 4-year-old to the shops to buy a card and wrapping for a friend's birthday we were meeting later that day. I caved into a request for a chocolate egg. Up to that point, he'd been good. Outside of the shop, he then absolutely lost his mind as I took the foil off his chocolate egg wrong. This culminated in him running back into the shop and demanding I buy a new egg. "Sorry, buddy, I'm not getting a new one. We already have this one." I tried several distractions, offering other snacks, giving him the opportunity to ride his bike outside, a toy, etc. He was having none of it. I then lost my patience and did the whole pretending to leave thing, and unfortunately this made the tantrum worse. I had a comment from a stranger of, "Where's the mother?" and 2 others offering to help. All 3 of these interactions made me want to die right there. I'm an introvert, and this kind of thing I find very triggering. I'm absolutely mortified and scarred from this. I feel as though the fact I avoid the shops with him perhaps made this worse, as he's not used to going to the shops with me. But also I just can't cope with it. Anyone else feel as though they're going to steer clear of certain situations with their toddlers until they're basically not toddlers? Yeah, it's really hard to carry these children when they're getting bigger and they're really strong, and somehow they know how to get away. You know, when you try to carry them under their armpits and then they somehow they do this thing where they raise their arms so their body kind of slips through your hands. They always do that. On vacation in a little ice cream shop that was packed while my husband went to a store down the street. I was getting us all ice cream and asked my 2.5-year-old if he wanted a cup or cone, and he said cup. Turns out what he really meant was cone. When they handed us our ice cream at the counter, he lost his mind, fell down on the floor screaming and crying at the top of his lungs. I couldn't carry him and the ice creams out of the store and was standing there dying inside until a nice woman stepped out of line and carried my ice cream so I could pick him up off the floor and get to a table outside. Yes, it was mortifying. My kid is 99th percentile for height and weight, so when he decides to lose in public, there's not much I can do. And yes, I often avoid situations where I need to take him into a store by myself. It's just the phase of life we're in right now. Don't sweat it. Yeah, in the moment, it's so tough. Another person says, my 4-year-old throws tantrums anytime we go somewhere. It makes me hate taking her anywhere. A couple weeks ago, she was misbehaving and not listening, even though I gave several cues and warnings about the consequences, not getting to play the duck machine. When we left and I was adamant that she would not be getting a duck, she tried to stand her ground and not move. Then it escalated to screaming. She was beating the hell out of me when I scooped her up and put her in the car. She was refusing to sit down and buckle up. It was a whole thing. A lot of these comments are saying that either they avoid going out and taking their kids, or you should take them out more so that they get used to it and they know what behavior is acceptable and not acceptable. We have tried all the parenting hacks, and well, our daughter's pretty chill most of the time. When she has a meltdown like that, there is really no coming back from it until she's ready. Any attempts to placate, distract, or even give her what she wants at that point make the tantrum worse. We have to find a safe place where she can let it out. We will tell her what tools she has available to her and where we are going to be. And then we sit 5 to 20 feet away from her, depending on the situation, and let her come to us when she's ready to move on. Usually once we settle in, she comes down pretty soon and just needs time to recover and decide what she wants to do next. We just got back from Disneyland where we did this once each day. Definitely got lots of stares and had to raise our hands a few times and say we are the parents, she's safe. Oh gosh. I guess I'll share my horrible moment. We live in Tokyo, Japan, and people are really quiet and keep to themselves generally. I had my 9-month-old baby in a carrier he's a pretty big baby. I had to take my 3-year-old to his extracurricular class. We parked in a department store. My 3-year-old started crying, and usually he's pretty chill, so I thought, oh, he'll get over it. But then it just got worse and worse and worse. And we were just out of the elevators. He was screaming. The shop ladies looking at me, and there were a lot of old people kind of walking by and staring. I think it was 20 minutes of my son just screaming and crying and saying no, no, no. I would have carried him, but I couldn't because I had my baby in the carrier. I was holding bags and it was just physically impossible to carry him out. And so I didn't know what to do. They had these chairs along the wall. I was kind of half laughing, half crying. I just sat down. I was like, okay. And I just waited. So we just decided to go back to the car. And then once we got in the car, he became calm. And then it was fine. But man, in the moment, it's so hard. And you feel like you're such a horrible parent. It's humiliating for sure. My wife is feeling embarrassed and humiliated by a tantrum my son threw in public. Help her feel better by sharing one of your toddler's worst embarrassing tantrums. When my daughter was 1.5, I took her to the zoo by myself. She didn't walk ever, only ran, so I put the harness on her to let her walk around. She did not like it at all and threw herself on the ground yelling and screaming, "Help! Help! Help!" at the top of her lungs, making eye contact with people who walked by. No. I was mortified but also impressed because it was the first time she said help and it was in the right context. Just not the context I had hoped for. That's so sad, but it's also funny. My oldest daughter had an amazing imagination. When she was 4, she had an imaginary cat named Snowball. One evening, while at the grocery store with her younger brothers, 2 and 1 at the time, we lost Snowball. Yep, we lost an invisible cat. Chaos ensues. Daughter is crying so much she can't breathe. Brothers are crying because sister is crying. Entire store is staring. Somehow we managed to locate Imaginary Cat. Never went back to that store again. Oh, that's kind of endearing though. I feel like this parent did such a good job. Like instead of being like, oh stop, there's no cat. I guess they found the cat, which means they looked for the cat. If this ever happens, you should just find that cat and be like, oh, is it there in the corner? Is it there? And then, yeah, I guess that worked. Oh, I'm sure everyone has multiple stories. I remember when my oldest was 2.5 and my youngest was 6 months or so. We were at the mall for some reason and the baby started crying. I was trying to rush us out so I could feed her in the car and my 2.5-year-old didn't want to leave. She started freaking out and going limp trying to keep me in the mall. I pulled the stroller over to the side of the aisle and sat down and started crying with my oldest. My baby crying in the stroller. A nice lady came over to see why we were a mess and wound up pushing the stroller out to my car for me while I dragged my oldest. They are now 9 and 11 and the oldest still loves the mall and never wants to leave and the youngest hates it. Tell your wife that she is awesome and everyone struggles. You forget some of them as they get older, but anyone with kids can empathize. The meltdowns will remain unexpectedly triggered and irrational for a while longer. Nowadays, I couldn't care less about the public judgment. People who have kids will be sympathetic and grateful that it wasn't them being the unlucky parent that day. Yeah, when I see someone's kid having a tantrum, I feel bad for the parent, definitely, but I'm also like, and people who judge don't have toddlers and wouldn't understand anyway, so why should their opinion matter? Do you have any stories you could share as well? Let me know in the comments.